So it's the start of the Jewish holiday of Shavuot 2025. This is the holiday where Jews celebrate Moses receiving the Torah and the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. I was going to stay in Jerusalem for this because people stay up all night studying the Torah by the Western Wall, and I thought that would be quite a cool experience. But I'm in Tel Aviv, and they're going to an event where there's some talks on biblical stuff and Torah stuff. Back in Tel Aviv, it's kind of interesting to perceive the differences between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and they are very, very different. So Jerusalem, very traditional, conservative, right-wing, religious. Tel Aviv, on the other hand, very secular, left-wing, liberal. And depending on your perspective, you can kind of see it in two ways. You can see it as the state of Israel splitting into two, kind of like, I don't know, the US splitting between California and Texas, for example. Or perhaps you can see it in a more positive light, where it's like they both keep each other in check. They're the two major cities. If Jerusalem starts to get a bit too disciplinarian and restrictive of the liberal secular population, then Tel Aviv's kind of there as a resistance against that, and vice versa, right? If Tel Aviv gets too liberal and wacky and too crazy, Jerusalem's there to ensure that it doesn't go like far left, like we've seen in the States before Trump. But yeah, very, very different. Kind of the wrong place to be to celebrate Shavuot. I was kind of thinking Jerusalem would be better. But it has got me thinking about this clash and whether you actually want these cities to be so different, or whether you want them to kind of converge. Perhaps you want a larger secular population in Jerusalem, perhaps you want a more religious conservative population in Tel Aviv, or maybe it's kind of perfect like the way it is, with the counterweights. I mean, obviously there are other cities in Israel, but these are the two major ones. And like the history of Tel Aviv is that because Jerusalem, on the formation of the nation state of Israel, Jerusalem was split between like East Jerusalem, predominantly Arab, and West Jerusalem, predominantly Jewish. Like in the first few decades of the modern day nation state of Israel, like Tel Aviv acted as the capital, right? And you still got a lot of Western nation states that are refusing to move their embassies to Jerusalem now that Jerusalem's obviously the capital of Israel. That's where the Knesset is, that's where the parliament is, that's where most of the government buildings are. But in those first few decades, when Jerusalem was disputed, perhaps split between East and West, Tel Aviv acted as the capital of Israel in those early days. This is where like the founding father, David Ben-Gurion, lived, and this is where the decisions were made in those early days. But yeah, another example of many of holidays that Jews celebrate that I'm not used to celebrating back in the UK where I'm from, and especially in Christian societies, Christian civilizations, like the Old Testament kind of gets completely forgotten, right? You celebrate Christmas, you celebrate Easter, so like you're celebrating the milestones of Jesus' life, but you don't, in Christian civilization societies, celebrate Moses receiving the like 5 books of Moses, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. You don't celebrate Moses receiving the 10 Commandments and the Torah. So yeah, I think even for Christians, like just to experience the Jewish way of life, you kind of engage more with this, some music happening by the beach. you engage more with the Old Testament of your holy book, right? And it is split between the old and new, and the old kind of gets forgotten in Christian societies. But yeah, this is rightly a Jewish nation state, and the Jewish nation state celebrates like Old Testament books, books of Moses, Torah, Tanakh. Uh, so yeah, uh, should be getting close to my Shavuot talks, and if I hurry up, I can kind of just get David Ben Gurion doing a handstand in the background. If you just bear with me, I have to hurry a little. So can you see this? There's David Ben Gurion doing a handstand on the Tel Aviv beach. So yeah, happy Shavuot from Tel Aviv in Israel.